Okay, welcome to another Highland League Weekly Friday preview show then. Another packed card to discuss this weekend and also games to review from midweek. We'll start with our main game for Saturday. It's Forest Mechanics against Fraserburgh. First visit to Mossop Park this season. Fraserburgh still in the title chase, coming off a 4-1 win away at Huntly in midweek. Scott Barber scored in that one, 15 this season to this point, and we know the threats that Fraserburgh have. Will Forest be quaking in their boots ahead this weekend?
I mean, respect obviously what Fraserburgh are capable of, but I think if you go into it quaking in your boots, as you said, you don't really have much chance of getting a result. For Forest, really, they've played Brora, they've played Buckie. In their last two games, they've lost in both, but I think if you speak to Stephen McDonald, he would say the performance against Buckie was a sort of step on from the one against Brora. So can they improve again and maybe take what they've learnt from those two games and try and get something out of this game? That would be the question. But Fraserburgh are in good form, there's no question. 10 unbeaten now in all competitions, quite a good run they're putting together. They were, I think, first half particularly put under a fair bit of pressure and asked a few questions by Huntly, but they've obviously answered them very well and look well placed going into Saturday again.
I don't think Mossop Park's been a very happy hunting ground for Fraserburgh.
Well, they did win their 7-0 last season.
Aye,
apart from that, though.
I know, but you're picking one game. I'm talking if you go back over a period of time. But the one thing for Forest is they had a free week midweek, of course. While Fraserburgh had that trip to Huntly. Yes, the Broch are in good form. They will want the need to keep winning. As Mark Cowie says every time, we need to be putting a run together, and that 10 unbeaten, as you said, Callum shows they're now doing that. But the margin for error is 0 for Fraserburgh at this point. So there's a pressure that comes with that, but they're handling it so far as you would expect from the team that's the champions of the league.
Let's talk about Strathspey Thistle against Banks of Dee next. Is it still too soon, or are the wounds still too raw to call this a basement battle?
Well, it's a basement battle in terms of how the league table looks.
Tongue in cheek.
Let's be honest, Ryan. If you were to rephrase that and say, do we think Banks of Dee are going to be down the bottom of the league coming end of the season? Yeah. The answer is a resounding no.
Well, we asked that last. I think going into this game, what I'm seeing is Strathspey have won their first game of the season in midweek against Clark-na-Cudden. I know Aidan Cruikshank got sent off and he'll be suspended, and he's really been their bright light in recent games. But I look at the table now and I'm like, Devon Vale, they're not picking up too many results either, and they're now, 4 points now? Is that the gap?
3, isn't it, I think?
I don't know. We'll check that for you. It'll be on the screen right now.
Apologies for having that to hand, but I think the dynamic of this Strathspey Banks of Dee game has changed massively from, say, a fortnight ago, because if you'd played it then, prior to obviously off-field events, and Strathspey having not won, it might have been they'd have been perhaps fearing the worst going into it. But now, Banks of Dee have had that blow. They're probably a bit deflated again with losing at Rothes on Wednesday night. And then on the flip side, Strathspey have won. They've kept a clean sheet as well, and I think it's amazing the difference in terms of confidence and belief in that they'll have now, just on the back of getting that 2-0 win at Clark on Wednesday, and from maybe not fancying the job so much, now I think they'll really fancy the job. And I mean, in a sense, the pressure's probably more on Banks of Dee than it is on Strathspey. So it's just interesting, how the dynamics.
It's a free hit. It's a free hit for the Granton Jags at this point. Winning in midweek is huge, but keeping a clean sheet is massive. I think that's even a bit more important than actually winning, because we've banged the drum all season of the amount of goals they've conceded has just been awful. So a clean sheet is a huge step in the right direction for them. Yeah, I mean, Banks of Dee are still strong favourites to win that game, I would say, but they're bottom of the table. There's a little bit of a gap now, and there's just that tinge of pressure that comes now of thinking, right, we need to get this sorted out and get up the table and get back to winning ways here. And it's a free hit for Strathspey.
Maybe unanswerable this, but you watched Dee in midweek. I thought they were quite sluggish. Haven't seen the highlights. I probably would have expected them to be better. Do you think that was because they had some time off, or do you think that was a hangover from the other stuff that's been happening?
Jamie Watt was very disappointed with the first half. Thought they were very lethargic, no intensity, no hunger to their play. But because I did ask him, he felt the sort of lingering thing over the points deduction was nothing to do with it, and it was more because it was their first game since the 14th October. But he said sometimes that can happen, but he'd been expecting the flip side, having not played for a while, that they would be champing at the bit and sort of take the game to Rothes from the off, but they didn't do that. And I mean, first half really Rothes were certainly the more threatening side and looked the more comfortable side in everything they did, really. So it was, the second half Banks were better without managing to score, as you'll have seen in the highlights if you've watched them. But no, it was, I think Jamie was thinking it was more just having been off for a couple of weeks rather than anything else.
Playing a dangerous game here by dotting about the card, because naturally the game will be forgotten at some point. But let's go to Nairn County against Turriff United next. Nairn, another good showing in midweek. Looks like they have improved, and they seem to get a new manager bounce even.
It's looking that way. Nairn, they're picking up points, and yeah, I mean a 3-0 home win in midweek is terrific for them. From Turriff's point of view, they're struggling a little bit just now, you have to say. So I do fancy Nairn for this one, I have to admit.
It's 7 points out of 9, obviously, which is decent form. And we were speaking about Strathspey with a clean sheet. I think a clean sheet for Nairn would be quite welcome on Wednesday night as well, because they have found it difficult to keep the ball out the back of the net. And as you're saying, Turriff, it's I think 1 win in 7 in all competitions. They have had quite a tricky run within that, but after quite a bright start, you're sort of looking for them to sort of re-find themselves a wee bit. But as I'll say, cliched with this game, there's goals, hopefully plenty of goals, because I mean you've got Conor Gethins and Nairn side and Aaron Reid and Ewan Clark and Turriff, so there's plenty of threat there.
Another test. Conor Gethins, how many goals is that now?
5 this season now, so I think he's 6 away from the magical 200 for Nairn.
Next up, let's talk about Fermartin United against Buckie Thistle, the second game, so we'll have highlights of that one as well from North Lodge Park. Buckie winning midweek, Fermartin winning midweek. Two teams that are going well, looking strong. I know Buckie will be our
new league leaders.
Well, yeah, our new
Buckie
league leaders
Thistle
will be our marginal favourites. Beacon weren't in action, of course, before the Beacon fans are on. But, I mean, it's a tasty one.
Oh, it is. It is. This is a Highland League heavyweight encounter for me, because Fermartin aspire to be where Buckie are, and for the last couple of seasons they've struggled for that consistency, which we've touched on regularly, but they're a different animal this year, and this is a real test for both camps, actually, for Martin and their aspirations of being up there, and for Buckie, who are looking to win a league title. This is a huge game.
Certainly is. I think it's interesting as well that they met at the start of the season in the Aberdeenshire Cup, and it was 2 each, and Fermartin prevailed on penalties. But I think Stuart Anderson at the time was honest enough to say that Buckie had outplayed them for large chunks of that.
I was at that game. It was, yeah. And counter-attacking from the home side, but they were.
Yeah, I was going to say on another night it was maybe a case of you wouldn't have got it to penalties and you might have been beaten in the 90 minutes. But I think since then, Fermartin have come on a great, because that was right at the start of the season, they've come on a lot since then. I think they're a different proposition now, so there's every chance for them to, if they could win this game and that puts yourself right in the, I think they'd then only be 2 points behind Buckie, and it puts them right in the mix. But on the flip side for Buckie, I mean, you see midweek, Josh Peters hat-trick, 12 for the season for him now. Andy McCaskill scoring again. He seems to be back close to his best. So there's, Buckie, as well as Fermartin are playing, everyone knows Buckie are still a very capable side.
Yeah, Keith poking the bear in midweek, I believe you call that, in that 5-1 defeat by scoring. I also noted in Brian Barclay's match report on the Devon Vale Fermartin game, Matthew McLean's long throws still appear to be key to the Fermartin tactical blueprint, so I wonder if Bucky will be able to deal with them.
Well, they will have to, because it's some
sight to behold.
It's some asset to have, like his long throws. There's and they're generally always on the money. He's got some throw on him, Matthew McLean, to be fair.
Huntly against Brora Rangers. The next one, test for Huntly. This one, Brora, recent weeks, pretty solid performances. A lot of goals in their team.
Well, we saw that on Monday night when we had the highlights of Brora's very good win against Inverurie Locos, and Huntly will be licking their wounds a little bit after playing well in the first half, especially against Fraserburgh before it sort of petered out in the second half. So Huntly need a response, but likewise Brora are in the same boat. They need to keep winning now, because everyone's now trying to keep up with Bucky and Brecon for that matter.
Brora, I think, as well, be interesting to see if them not playing on Wednesday has any impact, because Huntly obviously had that. It's 2 games for Huntly where he'll spend periods without the ball and that, and you need to work very hard, and given the rain that we had, I imagine Christie Park was on the heavy side on Wednesday night, so whether that's sapped some energy from the legs or whether Alan Hale makes a few changes will be interesting to see. But obviously, if everything all told, you would certainly start Brora as favourites, and again, them not playing on Wednesday probably adds to that.
Talking about the Brora Locos highlights at the weekend, Locos have got Keith at Harlaw Park the weekend. Keith disappointing, well, not really a disappointing result, I suppose, against Bucky in midweek. I mean, that was a game that would have been a bonus for them if they'd taken something from it. Do you think they can fare better against Locos? I mean, Locos will be desperate to get back to winning ways.
Locos will be, but yeah, I mean, Keith going to Harlaw is less of a daunting task than facing Bucky Thistle, with all due respect to the clubs involved. I think the Maroons can go there and give the Locos a game, I have to say.
The interesting thing is, Inverurie, 1 home win this season, Keith, 1 away win, so...
Score draw.
So you'd say somebody's record's got to improve, or it'll be a draw, so we'll see.
Right.
That's the insight we're here for, Callum.
I thought it was a quirky statistic for you, but...
On the subject of form, Rothes against Lossiemouth, 2 form teams.
Rothes had a good win against Bankside. I think they pushed Fraserburgh all the way before conceding 2 late goals in injury time. Rothes are showing signs of getting back to being the Rothes.
Well, they're 8th now.
I thought in terms of performance, Rothes were back to the Rothes you expect on Wednesday. Very hard to play against, carried a threat, kept the ball well at times when they needed to as well, and much more like what you would expect from them.
And a goal of the season contender.
And a great goal as well for Aidan Wilson, clearly. But it's interesting with Lossie, they've sort of been slowly progressing, not just this season, but even over the last couple of seasons. And Joe Russell was telling me that in his 4 and a bit years as manager, he's never managed to get anything at McKessick Park, so that would be a nice... there's been quite a few grounds like that with Lossie where they've maybe been a number of years since they've won there, and they've sort of been managing to tick them off, so I think that would be quite a nice one for them if they could do it, another sign of progress if they could leave McKessick Park with something.
2 games left to go. God, it's felt long, this. Wick Academy against Devon Vale. Wick surely be disappointed in midweek. I think they've been not the great run over the last couple of games of the Wick.
Well, if you look just in the league, it's 1 point from the last 18, but to be fair, Devon Vale over the same period, it's 4 points from a possible 18, so it's neither side's
setting the heather alight.
Aye,
no,
exactly. It's two teams that are could be doing with a win and could be doing with sharpening up in both boxes. I think, to be honest, Devon Vale at the moment, in my opinion, just with I suppose the Dane Ballard effect, probably have that wee bit more threat in the last third, that bit more sort of guile in the penalty area. I mean, Gary Manson said often enough that he's looking for the scories to be a bit more inventive in the final third and try do more to open teams up. And I just think with Devon Vale, with Ballard there, if he gets a chance, the majority of the time he'll take it, so that might just give them the edge.
Do you think the likes of Vale, I know I tried to spark this conversation last night, I'll try and spark it again. Do you think the likes of Vale and Clark above them, Clark have got a trip to Brecon at the weekend, we know how good Brecon are. Do you think those two teams could get drawn into the battle with Strathspey at the bottom of the table the way things are going at the moment?
Well, I put my neck on the chopping block with an opinion piece at the start of the season before a ball had been kicked, saying I feared for Vale and Strathspey this season, and I think we're getting very close to seeing that prediction coming into view. So Clark, I don't know, I haven't seen enough of Clark, I'll be honest, but Vale are just a young team, and much in the same manner as how Turriff United were. If you go back maybe 18 months, they're starting afresh and building up again. There's a danger, I guess, that comes with that in terms of you're down there and you take some sore ones from time to time. But as Callum says, they do have a very good get out of jail card in Dane Ballard, who can chip in with goals over the course of a season.
In terms of Clark, I mean, I continue to be of the opinion that I don't think Clark will be in trouble come the end of the season, because from what I've seen of them, I see a lot of good things, but clearly results don't match up to that, and they maybe play well in spells and then things go wrong. But Saturday will be interesting down at Glebe Park because they're looking for a response clearly, and whereas some teams will go to Brecon and try to shut up shop and be very difficult to break down, Clark will go and have a go because that's the way they go about it in every game. Regardless of who they play, they'll try and get the ball down and pass it and have a go at Brecon. And if you get the Lily Whites on a day where it all clicks and they knock it about like they can, then they could cause real problems. But if it doesn't quite click for them, then that's when Brecon can really pick you off.
We're expecting Brecon to be, I don't know, fired up, having lost. I know it's a game in hand, they've still got to play, but having lost that top spot.
At this stage, I don't think losing top spot will come into Brecon's thinking at all. They'll just be going into it knowing we're in good form, scoring lots of goals now, we're not conceding hardly anything. It's 5, I think, as we've touched on already this week. Brecon are in very good shape, so I don't think they're worrying about any match at the minute.
Okay, well that's it. That's all the games discussed. Just a reminder, our main game for Monday's Highland League Weekly, which goes live at 7 PM on the Press and Journal website, is Forest Mechanics against Fraserburgh. We'll have highlights and reaction from that one. We'll also have secondary highlights for Martin United against Bucky Thistle, so just the highlights from that one. But yes, tune in to Press and Journal at 7 PM, Highland League Weekly on Monday. And before then, enjoy the football, whichever games you're watching.